Like I said, not a lot of momentum, but the value is very strong. So if we stay above that 638, keep an eye on the extension targets around 69, 78, and 94. 69 has already basically been hit. I think we're just going to go ahead and delete that one. We will raise our targets up by one level. So we'll say 78. And then we'll say 94. And then to the downside, very standard retrace targets. You're looking for that value low around 83. What did I do here? Did I skip a level? What did I do here? I think I forgot to update these levels last night. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened to those levels. That should be 583. And that should be 543. We are looking for normally rotations if you're staying inside of value, but right now we are trying to break value. So if it stays above that value high, you are watching all the trending levels to see if we're going to stay outside of balance, like the EMAs, the candle lows, the momentum, the nodes. Just everything moving in that one direction. You have to keep an eye on it to see if we're going to stay one directional, stay bullish, or are we going to go more into a micro pullback of that P-shape profile? Okay, same thing here for NASDAQ. We did hit our first target already, I believe. Actually hit both of our targets. Let's go ahead and raise those targets up here. So we are going to say it's already very close, but that is the closest target we can take, that 355, and then we have around 462. I would also probably raise our upper level, to that 222, that upper POC, because we have broken out of value so much on NASDAQ here. And that would lead to a retrace down to 964 for that move down. And that would go back down to, let's see here, 586 for that retrace. So much more bullish on NASDAQ, not even really showing that D shape at all. It's just kind of a P shape trend breakout. They're still holding that micro pullback structure a little bit more on ES. You are still breaking out of it on ES, but the breakout is very clear, very defined on NASDAQ. It's already fully broken out of that D-shaped micro pullback. You can see it's already kind of a trend profile building those upper nodes. VWAP not even really being tested today. Very bullish for the most part. You had one little kind of trap below it for a few hours on the pre-market. You broke below it around 4 a.m., reclaimed it around 7 a.m., and you have not touched it since. So very strong move to the upside here. Continuing that pressure from yesterday. And this is breaking that structure. Well, first, let me give you guys this trade plan here, then we'll talk about it. Okay, sorry. So what I was saying was this is trying to break that structure. Let me pull up our other chart here. It's actually insane how quickly we went from being very close to like a short-term bear market to being back into all-time high. So we were just about to break that VWAP from the bottom, which would have started a short-term correction back to like 7K, 6,500, whatever. Very quick bounce on Thursday. We didn't know if it was going to break that trend yet, so still could have been a trap. First break on Friday, same thing. We didn't know. Is that a trap? It was breaking the structure, but it wasn't a very strong candle. It's kind of a doji. Then yesterday, very strong, very obvious break of this structure. So that structure is done. We are back to the range high of this distribution. Now, we are breaking the range highs of the distribution. Another strong candle. So the short-term macro move, like this little short-term correction, that is dead. So now we have to see, is the big move dead? Are we going to stay above this range high here and then just go back into kind of a structure like this? Very different on NASDAQ. NASDAQ did start that short-term correction, which was a pretty big pullback. That's like a 5% move there. And now we are in the move to retrace the range, right? Which is kind of like a descending range. So short-term correction is dead. But we have not finished that retrace of the major correction, the distribution. So for the higher time frame guys in here, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that big correction back to 30K, back to 31. But the short-term move is dead. They have destroyed those short-term sellers. They have been completely trapped. That is a nearly 10% move off the lows in the span of a week. Very big move. Oil continuing to sell. Dollar still in that sell structure, but very weak today. So overall, long story short, we're not looking for a short-term correction anymore. The buyers have trapped those short-term and longer-term sellers pretty aggressively, and we're back to all-time high or very close, like on NASDAQ. Yeah, Solo, that's spot on. That's our market right now. Yeah, unfortunately with the targets, I have to give you guys like very close targets because we're so close to all-time high. Those are like the last remaining value levels that we have. So NASDAQ, I will have to quickly extend the targets. So when it is finished, which is pretty much one more move, I'll have to extend that to the upper levels here. The next one will be around 700, then 800. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Future, Blood, Andreas, AT, Julio, Scott, MU, Ike, Jay. Good morning, Yao, Larry, Flory, Luis, Roma, Stream. Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Morris. Good morning, Faraj, Roman, Leslie, eBay, Jazz, Abby, Greg, Ray. Good morning, Adam. Anthony, Sam, Samo, Kirito. Good morning, Bella. I can't say your name. I'm not sure what language that is. Sorry. Good morning, Lubmir. Orion. Good morning, Crown. Good morning, Rar. I said Rar. It's Raw Ram Music. Sorry about that. Good morning, Music. Good morning, Chebby. Other Jazz, Ryder, Tamer. Good morning, Scooby. Good morning, Sebastian. Appreciate you guys being here. Yeah, Raw. You need some capitalization in your name. It looks like RAR, but it's Raw Ram. No, Raw Ramp. I can't read today. You see what I mean? You need a capitalization. I did wake up very late today, so I'm gonna be a little groggy today. I actually got very lucky. I woke up like right before I needed to get stream ready. Call you Jack. I'll try to remember that. Yeah, I stopped using alarms in the morning a while ago, so I just let my body kind of body clock and hopefully wake up on time. And most days it works pretty much perfectly. But today I overslept a little bit. I noticed I get better sleep if I just don't use an alarm and I just let my body just kind of wake up. Okay, here's that next breakout on NASDAQ. Like I said, I will have to very quickly extend those targets. I usually don't like giving targets that are so close for the trade plan, but unfortunately with NASDAQ, it was either choose the targets that are very close or give you targets that are ridiculously far away. So here are the targets, and the next one would be around 688 and 802. So we're already kind of finishing that trade plan. And I'll post the updated ones on YouTube. I usually don't do that, but this happened so fast. Let me just go ahead and add those on there. All right, I added the extended ones on there. Morning, Joan. Come on, Ollie. Okay, we are hitting that target up here. Where is that level? A very old level going back to July 16th. Oh, this gap level that I have marked, because I still have it marked, even though it's completely chopping through it, because that's that gap that we were glued to for so long. It's acting like a magnet and pulling us back in again. Looks like it's the same as yesterday, where the early momentum is just being maintained. There's not a ton of pullbacks. There's a couple more pullbacks today, back to the 24. Yesterday, you didn't even touch the 24 for a very long time. Yeah, the setups the last couple of days are more so like trend following. They're not like big moves. They're just like getting another piece of the move that's already happening. So little micro sweeps, pullbacks to the trail, pullbacks to the ADMA 24, pullbacks to the candle lows, all that sort of stuff. You're not seeing like those big moves, those retraces, the massive rollover tops, the VWAP trades. The last couple of days shows you one of the only issues with heavily relying on VWAP is when you don't test VWAP, when you don't have those pullbacks that come back and test VWAP. Some days you just won't get any trades whatsoever. But it's pretty damn rare. Most days you're going to test VWAP a few times. Yes, we do have a little bit of data at 10 o'clock, and that is pretty much it for the calendar, I believe. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I can't remember. Were those earnings, any of them today, or does it start tomorrow? Let's see. Yes, AMD is today, actually. SanDisk is tomorrow. Western Digital is tomorrow. And I think that's it. Yep, so AMD today. Keep an eye out for AMD. That's going to be a massive one. Here's our first target on ES. Next target at 94. And remember, at this point, these targets are just kind of like extension levels. They are essentially made up levels. They're not like actual value levels. They're Fibonacci, they're extensions, all that stuff. They're not just completely random. They have something backing them, but they don't have value backing them. SpaceX, do they have earnings already? Oh, wow, they have earnings already, yeah. That'll be interesting. Still following that picture-perfect IPO pattern. Hopefully you guys listened to me around that IPO and you didn't buy in too much. This is literally like the textbook IPO pattern. It sells off after the IPO. Sometimes you have a trap before the sell-off. But yeah, this is pretty much perfect. I'd like it to go down kind of way lower, to be honest, if we want to get into like a long-term position. You're only down about 20% from the IPO. That's not enough. I would need this at least at like 80, maybe 60. So somewhere around there would be a better place for a long-term hold. Are we short squeezing? You could probably say that, yeah. You could probably say over the last couple of days we're squeezing out those shorts that were trading that sell-off, mostly on NASDAQ. The break of that VWAP, the break of the range low, it was getting very bearish. Like I said, we were like sitting on the cliff of a 10 to 15% correction. We very easily could have went the other way by 10%. But that's not what the headlines did, right? The move in the dollar, the move in oil, all that stuff, the move in the yields. The headlines kind of pushed us the other direction. More lockouts coming out? Yeah, for the SpaceX, yeah. Good morning, Olive. How's the volume? It's not too bad. We're at 144K already, and we still have a few minutes left. Yesterday, what was our opening volume? Opening volume was 188, a little bit higher yesterday. Day before that was, let's see here, 211. So it's going down a little bit, but it's not terrible. Where is this day here? Oh, that's the one I already showed. This one, 160. Yeah, so we're about average. We're like slightly low. Yeah, this is just the very standard thing we talk about every time we're an all-time high. I always talk about how you guys need to get used to that vertical distribution pattern. Basically yesterday, just ingrain yesterday into your brain. That is one of their favorite patterns when they are getting to all-time high, or when they're in all-time high, looking for higher value. They don't know where the value is because there literally is no value, right? They're finding it. So they're kind of sending out testers. They barely push up, they test it. Okay, you guys like that? Okay, test it again. Okay, the market likes it. All right, test it again. And they just keep doing that over and over and over. And then usually while they're doing that, you have a ton of sell pressure coming in because people are closing their trades because everybody is in profit. If you had any longs or any buys below the current price, you are in profit because we're all-time high. There's no physical way that you would not be in profit. So there's a lot of sell pressure going on because people are letting go of their positions, which typically causes a big bear div. It causes a big problem with the delta because the delta will be going down a lot even though price is going up. But it's not aggressive selling. It's more so just profit taking. But yeah, like I said, just take a look at yesterday, guys. That is like the textbook testing all-time high value price action. And that's what we talk about every single time we retest the all-time highs. Today is a pretty strong one, actually, because you don't have that much bearish delta. It's actually getting a ton of bullish delta, but it is being skewed by a shit ton of block trades. $10 data coming out pretty soon. Yeah, Ollie, I did see them. I tested them out a little bit a while ago. I have not used the newer ones with like the add-on one that you guys are using. They're like free until the end of the year or something like that. I don't use add-on indicators. I rarely ever use them. I never used them on Trade-of-8. I never used them on NinjaTrader. I'm not going to use them on Addis for the most part. Just not a big add-on guy where I have to. I know me personally, I would not have to pay. They would just give it to me for free. But I don't like constantly adding on new indicators that I have to pay for, or you guys have to pay for. Not a big add-on trader with these platforms. If it was just going to be free forever on Addis, I'd probably test them out. But I know you guys won't have them for free, so. Be careful with the data coming out. Data in a couple of minutes here. Okay, here's the 10 o'clock data. If it does go bearishly, watch that upward node at 81. Losing that node's a problem. But right now, the structure, it's basically like today and yesterday are just completely melded together. There is no difference in our price action. Still waiting on that data to update here. I believe it was lower than expectations from what I'm seeing on Twitter. It was 7.36 over 7.44. Is that our final target on? Yeah, it is. Okay, so I have to extend our targets on ES as well. The runners are still pretty stable. There's nothing really stopping you right now. I think that is the all-time high level. Then we have some extensions back to 707. Then I have nothing else. So here's a trick for grabbing levels when you don't have anything above you. You can take the impulse. If you have a very impulsive day, like a P-shaped profile, you take the low of the impulse, which is typically the low of day. They're not always the same. Then you take the high of day, and then you have these kind of zones of Fibonacci targets. So we're already hitting our first zone of targets here. Then we have our next zone around 732, 745, and then somewhere around like 790. And if you guys need my fib levels, you can just take a screenshot of all the ones that I have checked here. Okay, so new extended targets are 732. Actually, sorry, 707. Then 732. And I will also add those to the YouTube plan because that broke so early. What, Ringo? Kramer was right. What is that, like 1 in a million? I can't believe that guy still has a show and he's still popular. I forgot what company it was, but he had like an insanely bad take on a company recently, and he was telling people to like put their retirement into it or like whatever, like put a lot of their long-term money into it, and then it nuked on earnings, and then he was like playing the "oh, I told you so, I knew it was going to go down," and then people were hitting him with the clips of like he quite literally just told people to put a bunch of money into it before earnings and it nuked. Was it IBM? Yeah, it's one of the big tech companies, I think. Sorry guys, I'm not going to comment too much today unless there's like something to talk about because I just sound like an absolute broken record from today and yesterday. It's the exact same thing. You're just keeping an eye on these EMAs, the nodes, the trailing levels. It is a very strong trending move. Very early to say this, but we might have single prints going back to 90. Keep an eye on that. They are still doing a very good job finding value when they are looking for it, right? They're constantly breaking the highs, looking for more value. They are not being exhausted. They are constantly finding upper nodes on basically the high of day. So now we have another node on high of day, which is damn near the POC. And they just keep doing that over and over. They look for higher value, they find it. Move the POC. Rinse and repeat. So you are just keeping an eye on all of those different trailing levels, the bots, the EMAs, the OTS trail, the momentum, the candle lows, whether it be the 5-minute if you're looking at it very aggressively. Could be the 30-minute, which is probably a little too wide right now. Yeah, I don't show the bots very often, but here you go on a very trendy day. You can see the bots. Just follow the, look for the take profits when they're like putting in nodes, seeing if those nodes are going to fail. You don't even have any take profits on the higher time frames because you're so damn strong. You're very far from that baseline as well. Yeah, you can see the 1 minute puts in a lot of take profits when you're building nodes. Because that's exactly what's happening. It's like I was saying earlier with the sellers, right? If you are selling from your buys, there is no way you're not in profit because you're all-time high, right? So you have a ton of people that are taking this time to sell, and that's what builds these nodes up. You have the sellers who are taking profit. You obviously have probably some sellers that are trying to catch the top and nuke it. But I'd say a majority of them, a lot of them are just taking profit. And then you have the buyers obviously fighting back, which builds that node. And then it just keeps going higher. Let me see if I can find that video, because this is a great time for you guys if you haven't seen that video on the EMAs. Yeah, here it is. So here's a great video if you guys are struggling during days like today and yesterday. That talks about how I look at the EMAs and how I use them in my trading, and besides like that standard, like, oh, there's a crossover, I'm buying, like that little stuff. It talks about how I look at them as like the aggressive level, the responsive level, looking for pullbacks and trends, etc. Definitely check that out. Yeah, T, that's the you summed up basically how I do my channel over the years. It's like how dedicated do you actually want to be, right? Um a lot of people like, and you guys have seen it if you've been watching my stream for years, you'll see people come in chat and they'll just immediately start asking the wrong questions. They'll start asking like, am I in a trade, or like, did I make money today, or just like those sorts of questions. Um, how much money can I make this much money trading? Like, it's always the money, 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 right? Um, and I'll always answer their question. I'll be like, oh, if you want to learn, you got to watch these videos here. Like, I have it broken down for you. And they're like, yeah, no thanks. See you later. And it's like, yeah, that's the filter right there. That's the big filter for my community, is how much time do you actually want to dedicate to this? Are you just trying to like get rich quick, or are you trying to like actually sit down and learn something and test yourself? Because there's not many things in life, career wise, that will test you like trading will. Like, this is one of the most grueling processes that you will deal with in your careers, right? The amount of like self-reflection and accountability and discipline that you have to go through is just truly insane. It's not like other jobs that you have like all these people to fall back on. You have all these teams and your boss and all, you know what I mean? Like, the entire structure that you have supporting you to fall back on. You don't have that in trading. Trading is just you. Like, obviously, you can have little communities like ours that we kind of talk about things and we help each other out. But at the end of the day, who's pressing the button and doing all these things? Like, it's just you, right? You don't have a massive structure to fall back on. But yeah, there's a lot of little filters like that for my community for sure. It's like in real life when I have friends of friends, because my friends don't really ask me too much anymore. They know the whole spiel. But like, friends of friends, they'll ask me questions about it. And one of the first questions they always ask is like, oh, how much money do I need to like do this? Like, how much money do I need in an account? How much money do I need to trade? Or they'll ask me how much money I have, like in my account, right? Um, and then I have to give them the entire spiel of like, that's not how it works. That's not how futures work. I could have $5,000 in a future account. And if you told somebody that, they're like, oh, wow, $5,000, that's nothing. And it's like, yeah, well, I'm trading $2 million worth of assets. And they're like, hold on, wait a second. What the hell are you talking about? So you have to explain the whole spiel to them about like, yeah, if you're talking about futures or even like options, asking somebody how much money they have in their account means literally nothing. Like, the leverage that we trade is ridiculous. You don't even want to think about it. It's so high. The only time asking somebody like, how much money do I need in my account to do XYZ, that it kind of makes sense is like a stock account, right? The stocks have a little bit of leverage. You can do like 2 to 4x, I believe, if you're in the US. That's like the highest leverage we can do in the stock accounts. So you got a little bit, but not a ton. But yeah, that's one of the first questions I always get. It's like, oh, how much money do you need in the account to do this? And then I have to explain like prop trading and the leverage on futures, losing the 24 on NASDAQ, by the way. We'll see if we can put in a lower high below that level. But yeah, just all that little shit. Like, all the little shit you have to explain to people when they're asking you those questions in real life. And you can just see their brain. They're like, yeah, no thanks. They're like tuning out as you're saying it. And you're thinking to yourself, like, that's not even the beginning of it. Like, you don't even know what is going into this. If you're already tuning out when I'm talking about account sizes, like, don't even bother. Yeah, the Lambo's in the shop today, exactly. Do I have videos on level 2? I think the most recent order flow video on the Apex series, I talk about it a little bit. Scott said I have a PhD, writing a dissertation was easier than learning to trade. Yeah. That's awesome, man. You have a PhD. That's cool. I have an associate's and almost had a bachelor's, and that was enough college for me. No thanks. No more. Talk about tuning out. That was me tuning out pretty much immediately. No, I didn't see your message. Where'd you ask for Netflix? Let me see. Oh, you said Netflix had a bull div. Gotcha. Yeah, let me take a look. By the way, we're repairing the 30-minute candle, so keep an eye on that 90. What time frame? When you guys talk about things like this, you always got to say the time frame. Because you got to understand that when you say like, oh, there's a bull div, I could be thinking 1 minute, 5 minute, 15, daily, weekly. So you always got to say the time frame. You're talking about the daily? Let me see. I need one of my charts with indicators. Here we go. Okay, yep, so this was one of those like stair-stepping patterns. So we had a stair-stepping pattern downward, failing the trail every single time. Looks like we had a bull div down here with a purple shading. You're bouncing back above the pivot and the trail. So right now you're in a 50-50 zone, so it's hard to say. So this would have been the buying opportunity. Bull div, purple shading, back into the trail. But this is exactly what I say every single time on the 1 minute chart. Every time you have a bull div or a bear div, you always target the trail because that's where you have edge. So like if I take the bull div here, you have a little bit of edge to get to that trail, then your trade is over on the short term. You don't know if it's going to give you that big trade. It becomes a 50-50 here, and you just kind of have to see how it reacts. And that's what's happening here. The bull div trade is over. It's already given you the target. Now we're on a 50-50. We don't know if it's going to stay above this trail. You have to see where that value builds. You basically think about this as a micro pullback, where like all of these candles are kind of a micro pullback structure. We don't know where the bias is until that value builds above or builds below that micro pullback range. That's why you always target the trail first so you can get your short-term target out of the way. Starting to fail those 24s here. Professional student, hey, if you keep going to school, you don't have to pay for your loans, right? That's the trick in the US. You just go to school until you die. Five more minutes, you will have single prints going back to 90 if you do not close that little gap. I do have to mute for a minute. I'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Gotta mute for a few minutes. Oh, nice guy, yeah. That definitely helps. By the way, we did not finish those single prints back to 90. So they are keeping the same pattern of yesterday where they're protecting those pullbacks immediately. Hey, Jay, if you're still here, have a good day. A lot of momentum coming in there. Might be a block trade or just a headline. Hard to say. You can see what I was saying earlier. They're doing a very good job just constantly building those nodes up as they are rising. You're not really seeing exhaustion today. You have a little bit of a wick up here, a little bit of a tail, but that's because we just had that explosion here, possibly from a headline. But for the most part, you're just not really seeing exhaustion. It's just moving from node to node to node. Despite the bad job data, yeah, the market doesn't care too much about the data recently. It has like short-term moves, but not a ton. over the last few years, we are definitely moving away from the like heavy reliance on this slow, unreliable, just economic data. Mainly since like COVID, like 2019, 2020, the market has been much more volatile and kind of glued to the actual companies and not glued to the economic data as much. I think the market is just getting a little too fast for that kind of data. And that's why I was saying when Warsh first had his first press conference, you can't hate on the guy too much because he is coming in and saying this data is slow, this data is laggy, we want to come up with better ways to give this data. Now, whether his new way is going to be better, who knows, right? But you can't simultaneously complain about the data being slow and laggy and unreliable and then also complain about Warsh trying to change how we do things, right? You can't have both. So if he can make it better, if he can make it faster, more reliable, go for it, right? Because right now the market does not give a shit for the most part about this data. We have short-term little corrections when the data comes out, and that's pretty much it. It's just so damn slow for a market that has become very, very fast. Like back when ES would move 10, 20 points in a range, and that'd be the entire daily range, and you're relying on this data that's a month old, 3 months old, whatever, it makes more sense that data is kind of pushing the market around. But now we're moving like, look at this. Low a day is 650, high of day is 710. These very slow, like I said, unreliable data points, you just can't care too much anymore. They just have to come up with better ways. Faster ways, more reliable ways to give us these data points. They cannot stay with this like old school survey style. It's just not working. In all these revisions they make, they constantly have the jobs data being revised, the inflation data being revised. It's just ridiculous. So then you can't rely on the data point that's already a month to 3 months old. Then you have to wait for another 3 months for them to revise the data. It's like, holy shit. How are we going to base our market moves on data that's 3 to 6 months old? I personally would not give a shit about any of these data points unless they're like ridiculous. Like they're so far off the average that it's like, okay, what's going on here? If it's like slightly better, slightly worse, nobody cares. Yeah, just think about like how fast the market has gone and how much faster it is getting with all the 24/7 stuff and how they're changing. We just added single stock futures. Like they're just constantly adding more and more things that should speed the market up but the data has not changed. And we're still doing data the old school way. It just doesn't make any sense. $77. If you're asking like why that's a target, it's an extension level. If you're asking why it's going up so fast, I couldn't really tell you. There's not like a whole, there's not like a single thing moving. It's just kind of bullish. Everything's just kind of bullish. If you had to pick one thing, I'd say it's the dollar and or oil. One of those two massively correlated markets. Those are helping us go up. The dollar is actually going up a little bit since the data came out, which is causing a little bit of sell pressure, but not a ton. Yeah, data's just really old school. It just doesn't keep up with the speed of the market. Yep. It's all the revisions too. Like since COVID, they were doing it before COVID, but I always say since COVID because it got like way worse around that like 2019, 2020, and then the market started changing, getting a lot more volatile. So I always say like since COVID. But since COVID, the data was just getting so heavily revised that people just stopped relying on it. And now, as time goes on, they rely on it less and less and less. And now we're, what, 6 years down the road of this happening. And here we are, right? They're adding nano-sized contracts. I did not see that. I'll take a look at that. Yeah, there you go. That just proves my point. We're getting so fast on the market, they have to release nanos for the equities. They already have nanos for commodities, I think some other markets, but not on the equities. So what would that be? That'd be what, 50 cents? 50 cents a point on a nano? The commissions are probably going to be ridiculous on those because you have to trade so many contracts. So if it keeps going up, I'm going to have to constantly give you guys that rant about, not the perma-bear rant, but this is more of the rant about you need to, it's kind of the perma-bear rant, I guess. You need to understand that there doesn't always need to be a reason, right? There's going to be a lot of days where it's just going up and you're looking around like, what was the news? What was the data? What was this? What was that? And you can't find anything and it's just going up. That's going to happen, right? We're just in that kind of vertical distribution market where it's just going to go up. The buyers are winning. It's that simple. There's not enough sellers to push it down. Vertical distributions happen because the aggressive buyers are outweighing the sellers, because the sellers are mostly just profit takers. They are not very aggressive sellers. So it's just going to go up, and you don't want to be stuck in this idea of like, oh, the data was bad. Oh, the oil's doing this. Oh, the dollar's doing this. It has to go down. It has to go down, even though it's like staying above the ADMA the entire day. It's staying above every single node. It's staying above every single 30-minute low. Like literally every single trending indicator you watch, it's staying above it. But you're still in this mindset of it has to go down, and you're pressing the sell button, and you're getting completely destroyed. So you just need to not be in that mindset when this is happening, and you need to understand that the market is just going to do what it's going to do. There doesn't have to be a reason for it all the time. It doesn't have to do what you expect it to do or what you want it to do. The biggest thing, we talk about this a lot in the Discord in the afternoon, the 30-minute lows. I cannot stress that enough. Like if you're just constantly doing this, and I'll go back to yesterday and show you yesterday. If you are just constantly protecting your 30-minute lows, like we didn't even sweep them yesterday. It wasn't even testing them. And you were staying above the 30-minute lows. You had one little sweep right there. And then above it, sweep, above it. So the entire day, basically, you were staying above the 30-minute lows. When you see an environment like that, it is very, very difficult to be a seller, because you're expecting something to happen that is very clearly not happening the entire day. Now, if you have a very good reason for that, a very good setup, like a rollover top or a sweep or like a massive bear div or whatever, like if you have a really good setup, you can take a stab at it every now and then, right? But you don't want to be sitting there selling the entire day as it's going up. Like 1 or 2 stabs on very good setups, maybe give it a shot, right? But taking like 6, 7, 8 like sells throughout the entire day, and you're just losing every single one, just stop, right? Just take a step back, zoom out. You're like, okay, it's above the 30-minute lows. Even worse, it's above the 5-minute lows the entire day. Why the hell am I selling if we can't even break 5-minute lows? Like, look at this. You can't even break 5-minute lows. Why are you selling? Just stop. Yeah, exactly. It just goes back to what I always say about not trying to take your plan and shove it into the market. And like the market has to do what your plan was. I hope it does dump when I'm saying this, because it will just prove my point even further. Because the problem with it dumping, like let's say it dumps right now. That just proves my point, because then you're stuck in this mindset of, oh, there it was. Oh, it finally dumped. That I could have sold the entire day. No, you could not have. You lost 10 times to sell 1 time. Did that one sell make up for your 10 losses, right? And if the answer is yes, then okay, keep doing what you're doing. You got it figured out, right? But I think for 99% of people, the answer is no. That one sell did not make up for their 10 or 20 losses they were trying to sell the entire way up. But yeah, that is the danger. That's the poison that poisons people's minds, where they think, oh, because it had one dump on a day where it went up 99% of the day, I could have been selling that entire time and I would have caught that one dump and made so much money. It's the reason poker players, I always come back to this about poker players being very good traders. Poker players are probably the best overlap in the trading world. The reason poker players do so good at trading is because they understand probabilities. They understand they're just playing a stats game. And if, let's say it dumps here, and it finally goes down, and you win that trade. That's like if you're playing poker, and you have a 2-7 offsuit, and you won that hand somehow. You flop 4 of a kind, or whatever, right? And you're like, holy shit, I'm going to play deuce 7 every single time. Because it worked, right? That's such a good trade, such a good hand. But it's not. You're playing a stats game. That's a horrendous hand. So poker players understand the stats. They understand the probabilities. They understand winning a good hand and winning a bad hand. Or losing a good hand. Going in with pocket aces and you lose on the flop, basically. That is a huge part of trading, is understanding, like, did I just get lucky, or was that actually a good trade? And most of the days like this, if you're selling and you do catch that one big dump, you probably got lucky. Oh, there it goes. Yet another one. If you guys sold there, you just lost again. And I'm not trying to say this to like rub it in. I'm trying to help you guys like understand. Selling days like this, you are stepping in front of a train. Selling days like yesterday, you're just getting destroyed. You're either not trading or you're following the trend. There's no like counter trend right now. The counter trend is getting completely destroyed. The last couple of days are another thing I want to help you guys understand is you need to understand, especially when you're a scalper and a day trader. And Dalton talks about this a lot in his books. He talks about when the like higher time frame guys, when the macro guys are in control. In the last week, this has been extremely macro. The big boys, the macro block traders, the massive delta traders, the daily traders that are moving the daily chart, they're building the daily chart. They are in control. So when you see days like this, and you are trying to take a 5-point scalp to the downside, you are trading against some massive traders. And they are just obliterating you. So you need to understand when these higher time frames are in control. Same thing that happened way back here, when this was a much more macro move at the bottom of the Iran move. So you need to understand when it's safer to trade those like scalpy moves, the day trading moves, and when you really need to zoom out and focus on who's in control, because the macro guys are in control right now, and if you're trading against moves like this, good luck. That's all I can say is good luck. Yeah, exactly, Chevy. That happens. That happens a lot with people that trade the prop firms. They pass their eval, just kind of gambling, just kind of throwing trades out there, not really knowing what they're doing, and they kind of get lucky, and they get into their paid account, and now they're like, okay, how do I do this? I'm kind of screwed now, because they were just kind of getting lucky, right? And here's another thing we talk about. I'll show you here. We talked about this in Discord yesterday. There was a really big afternoon break yesterday. And what do I always say about these afternoon breaks? They will almost always be repaired the same day or the next day. When they are not repaired, that is a very telling thing. That is an extremely strong move when they are not repaired. This one was not repaired, and look at this. When the afternoon value is being respected, it is very strong macro value. You don't see that very often. Like pretty much every single day I'm scrolling through, these are all repaired. We do not see that. It's very rare, but when it happens, as you can see, it is very strong. When you know which time frame's in control, just look at the daily. If the daily is doing like massive moves, like they're just really big days, very aggressive days, the daily's in control. If it's just stuck in a very choppy, like micro pullback, doji after doji after doji, then they're not doing anything. And you're a lot safer to trade how you want. But if the daily's like doing a one directional move, very aggressive days, very small wicks, very big candles, then they are in control. If you're breaking a massive macro level, like a range high, range low, like yearly high, all-time high, just like those massive levels that everyone looks at, they're probably in control. Good morning, Patriot. Yeah, exactly, Chubby. Like I said, guys, today and yesterday, you really just need to like screenshot these into your brain. This is very, very common when we're all-time high. It's pretty aggressive, I'll give you that. It's pretty powerful. It's not usually this aggressive. But the pattern is basically the same. The delta constantly coming into the downside, the 5-minute lows being protected, the 30-minute lows being protected, sellers getting completely obliterated, basically not being any significant sell patterns. The sell patterns that do happen are instantly ignored, like the next candle. The seasonality of this year is pretty much on par, except for obviously like the Iran move kind of moving us around a bit. If this buy pressure continues, this will be off the historical record a little bit. Because midterm years are typically bad years. They're still historically positive, but they are much worse than every other year in the presidential cycle. Midterm years are typically a lot of chop because it's just a lot of political bullshit going on. The historical average is about 5% gain, so we're already above that. So if this continues like this is going to be one of the best midterm years on record, which will be a little bit concerning. Because typically the year after the midterm is the best year because the midterm year is so choppy and unreliable. They go really hard into the year after the midterm. So if the midterm year is good, that might take away from the year after, right? Yes, there is a video. It's called How to Trade Block Trades, or just type in block trades, and it should come up on my channel. Yeah, I think them going up is giving us a lot of that sell pressure that we're seeing. It's just it's not enough. I couldn't care less, Bob. I don't keep track of stuff like that. I'm so tired of keeping track of the Iran and like the military stuff. I don't care anymore. It has been one of the most miserable, probably the most miserable thing to keep track of as a trader since I started trading. So I am just completely tuned out. I don't care anymore. I react when oil reacts. That is pretty much it. Got Iran fatigue? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, as you guys have seen, I like don't even read the headlines anymore. I don't talk about it in Discord when the headlines come out that much unless it's like a really big move. I just simply do not care anymore. Absolutely mentally exhausting keeping track of that. Too much propaganda and bullshit on both sides. No, thank you. You're already far behind on that, Bob. If you wanted to get into defense stocks, most of them are already moving. You had that contract with Lockheed Martin, I think, like a month ago or a few weeks ago. That's talking about exactly what you're talking about. They are they're giving contracts to Lockheed and like other defense manufacturers to ramp up their productions of these missiles and drones and all that stuff that we've been using a lot of in um, in Iran. So that's already happening, right? You'd already have to see those moves on the chart. That supply chain move is probably already a year plus in its movement. But yeah, I think it was Lockheed Martin that just got the most recent contract. But yeah, they're pretty much just following the trajectory of the Iran war. The defense stocks, like this is a very typical defense move. It's not like people think they move like the chip companies. They compare them to like, oh, if there's a big war, they're going to go insane and they're going to go up 100, 200%, whatever. The defense stocks don't move like that. The defense stocks are more like blue chip companies, even when there is a war going on. Like you can see this move here. It's not a bad move. It's a pretty decent move. It shows you how crazy the stock market has gotten because I'm saying a 40% move is not that big. But yeah, you had like a 40% move here, and then it came back down, and you're kind of chopping around. Um, but yeah, the opportunity cost right now in the stock market with the companies that are actually moving, the defense stocks are just very, very slow. Even when there is a war going on, they're very slow. Yeah, Abby, no problem. I try to give like the vast majority, the bulk of my content for free on YouTube. It's a big reason why you don't see too many people in chat like we used to see all the time. Like when my catalog of content was a lot smaller, you don't see a lot of people coming into chat and saying I'm a scammer and trying to scam all you guys for all your money, yada yada yada. You just don't really have any proof or any foot to stand on when people say that I'm scamming when I have one of the largest free catalogs of trading content on the internet. There's almost no channel, even like the channels with 100,000 subs, 200,000 subs, whatever. There's almost no channel that has the amount of content that I have for free. Even their paid shit doesn't even come close to how much content I have for free. Did I trade any ES longs today? Yeah, I made like $1 million. It was kind of a rough day. Not my best. Yeah, V, no problem, man. Yeah, it's like a million's just not a lot after you think about the commissions and the taxes. Only a couple of vacation properties. My Lambo's still in the shop. It needs a shit ton of work, so I needed to make a little bit more today. I was trying to buy at least a couple of apartment buildings today, which we didn't get to, unfortunately. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, I'm only renting the Lambo. Yeah, I forgot. I'm supposed to be one of the scammers. Yeah, you would think the yen carry trade was a lot weaker over the last like year or two, but it seems like it still has a chokehold on the market, at least a little bit. Because when the yen was moving around the last week or two, we were tied to the dollar like every single candle. And for anybody who doesn't understand dry sarcasm, I was clearly joking about everything I said. Hopefully you understand that. Single print's going down to 719. If we do not close that tail, 709 and 90 still have those single prints here. We did have single prints yesterday, which we obviously left open. Another reason you can see how strong we are today, the afternoon break left open, and the single prints left open, going down to 590. Yeah, exactly. I would be a good trader. I would make money trading, but I don't want to pay taxes. So yeah, I like losing. It's like the same thing with commissions. As long as you're not trading a bunch of times to every day, who gives a shit about commissions, right? You make the commissions back pretty quickly. And obviously, if you're winning, right? If you're trading a bunch, then they really start to eat away your profits. You're trading like 10, 20 times a day. But you're trading like less than 10 times a day. You don't even really see the commissions. You see them a lot more on the downside. Like if you're losing a bunch of trades and you're not winning at all, then the commissions add up. I couldn't tell you, Bob. I don't look at macro stuff like that. I look at rectangles on a screen and that's about it. That bear div is getting pretty chunky here. Like I said, very typical on these vertical distributions. That is a big bear div. You've had a bear div for 26 minutes. Delta's down 2.5 thousand, even though we're up 43 ticks. By the way, we are hitting our extended targets. I'm going to have to extend them yet again. Our next extended target would be 91. And then that is literally it. I have to make more after that. So 45 and 91. So if I do have to make more after 91, you would be doing the same thing. You grab the low of day, which is like back here. And then you would grab the high of day, which at the time it would be 91. And then it would give us even more targets. 45 and 91. Is this sustainable? Probably not. But we'll have to see what comes out with those earnings today. Especially AMD. That could be a little devastating for the buyers here. We'll see how that plays out. I mean, how poetic is that? That the prodigy, the guy who started this entire move, the entire bubble, he got trapped and taken out on the local bottom, and then it just goes crazy. They treated him like a retail trader, basically. Patriot, the biggest one that everybody uses is Earnings Whisperer. I think it's Whisper or Whisperer, one or the other. Just type in Earnings Whisper and it should come up. That's like the big one that people use. How old is he? I think he's like mid-20s, I think. Yeah, I'm talking about the Leo guy. I forgot what his full name is. The Situational Awareness Fund. The guy who put out the manifesto like a year or two before the massive move started. He put out a long, like, I forgot, it's like 10 pages or like something ridiculous. He put out a manifesto talking about pretty much predicting this entire move. He predicted what was going to happen in the supply chain. He predicted what was going to happen with the data centers and the chip companies and yada, yada, yada. And then he took his fund and like 5x'd it, 6x, somewhere around there. Like 600%, 700%, whatever. But he grew it much more than that. He like 20x'd it based on investments. The investments were much higher than that. It was like 1 billion to like 20 billion or something like that. I don't know the exact details. I'm probably butchering a lot of it. Just do your own research. But long story short, he basically got liquidated on that local bottom. He closed out of a lot of his positions. I don't think he didn't like go to zero. Like I'm pretty sure he still got money, but that local bottom he got taken out of. It was 43 billion. There you go. Yeah, like I said, I don't have the exact numbers down. Long story short, Prodigy called the entire move, did really good, had a massive fund, over leveraged, got cooked. Moral of the story, don't over leverage. Dude was right about everything, but he took too much leverage. Have a good day, Chevy. And right after Citadel took over, it went up. Yep. Funny how that works, huh? Yeah, it's exactly what I said yesterday. He's still right. The fact that he lost his firm and money and whatever, he's not wrong. He just took too much leverage. He is still completely spot on with the entire supply chain thing. Hey, Ryder, have a good day, man. We are getting pretty extended here. We are outside our bands by quite a bit. This is where the fair value should be, around 709. We're getting pretty extended outside of that. We've been extended the entire day. 15-minute outside of fair value as well. 5 minutes still hovering around it. Daily, barely inside of it, if we count the newer value. And you're seeing the power of that daily pinch, that daily squeeze on the Momo. So the pinch started back here. It was pinching downward, and then you can't really see it. It's kind of hard to see. But then it pinches upward here. And it's very hard to trade against that direction. So it was hard to go long here, and then it was hard to go short here. Trying to repair the 30-minute candle, go back to 19 single prints. Will happen for every point that we do not repair. Yeah, the NASDAQ pivot was beautiful. NASDAQ pivot and the purple shading were beautiful for sure. Unfortunately, no pivot on ES. Did it have a 12-hour? No 12-hour. Okay, the highest time frame we had was a 4-hour. It was a beautiful 4-hour pivot, but no higher time frame. Just barely missing the weekly trail. Looks very similar to how the weekly put in a pivot and then launched. Single prints going down to 19, so leaving a bunch of single prints left open for the morning session. And we have single prints in pretty much the same exact style yesterday as well. Yeah, Pentagon, it's exactly... I'm assuming you got into stream a little bit late, but I covered this a lot earlier. It's what I call a vertical distribution, where you are distributing, as in people are applying a lot of sell pressure, mostly profit taking, but it's vertical in the sense where the buyers are just slightly stronger, so they are continuing to go up, even though that sell pressure is constantly coming in. So you still have that very obvious bear div. The delta is still going down, but it's from profit taking. It is not from powerful traders actually pushing the market. It's just from people taking profit. Because selling is not just selling to open. You have to remember that there is selling to close. People closing their trades, not opening, which are applying pressure, right? The opening traders want to keep applying pressure to push it in that direction. Because if it doesn't go in that direction, then they are going to get destroyed. They're going to lose their trade. So the people closing their trades, they're applying a little bit of pressure because they're taking that side of the trade, the sell side in this case, but they don't care what happens afterwards because they've already closed their trade. So they're not applying a ton of pressure. So what's happening today is the people applying pressure are the buyers. The buyers are completely winning this battle. There's a little bit of pressure from the sell side because they are selling. People are selling the all-time high moves, most likely to take profit. Obviously, they should be in profit because we are all-time high, right? So when you market sell to close the trade, they are also going to be seen on the delta because the delta is just counting the market sellers and the market buyers. It's not counting who is opening and who is closing. So you still have all those sellers that are closing. Well, they would be buyers closing because they're selling to close. So you have all those buyers selling to close, which are applying a little bit of pressure, but it's not enough pressure. So the people that are actually applying pressure and winning the battle are the buyers. And that is why you have a vertical distribution. It's distributing in the sense where there's a little bit of fight back. It's not exactly just completely trending higher because the delta is still negative. But they're still winning. The buyers are still winning. These patterns completely destroy people that like to short trade because they mistake that profit taking for very strong sell pressure. And then exactly what I said earlier, which might happen right here, we'll see. What I was saying earlier is these days can very often give you one big sell-off. And it tricks you into thinking when you see these days, you can just keep pressing the sell button because what if you get that one big sell-off? But you don't realize that it's just so much easier to make that same amount of money. Let's say I wanted to make that big sell-off and I wanted to make $500, whatever, just random number. I want to make $500 on that big sell. Why not just follow the trend and make $100 a couple of times? Make $200 a couple times. You could make the smaller wins just a couple times following the entire trend up instead of trying to make that one big sell on the way down. But all right, on that note, I'm going to call it there. I appreciate you guys being here. I will be in Discord the rest of the day. Like I said, guys, just don't get run over by this train. Watch the 5-minute lows. Watch the 30-minute lows. We basically have not lost a 5-minute low the entire day. If you're selling this, you're just asking to lose money. Obviously, things could change in the afternoon. We'll talk about it in Discord if it does. But as of right now, the sellers are just getting obliterated. The buyers are in control, obviously. Like I said, 30-minute lows, 5-minute lows, trails, EMAs, etc. When they're constantly finding higher node after higher node after higher node, and they are protecting those nodes, they're just winning, right? There is no battle. They are just winning. And they are the buyers right now. But all right, guys, the extended targets on ES are 45 and 91. Extended targets on NASDAQ are 688, 802, and then if it goes crazy, 30,000. If you guys enjoy the stream, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. We're like 20 subscribers away from 25K. We could probably hit that in the next day or two. So I appreciate you guys being here. That is awesome. It's a big milestone. If you guys want to support the channel, you can use code BRUINAPEX. It is 90% off, I believe, for the next like few days or so. And they still have their legacy accounts for that deal as well. If you guys want to check out Addis or Discord, the links are down below. If you guys are in Discord, I'll see you there. If not, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace, everybody.